Welcome, everyone, to the Squid and Ultimate Elite Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Elite fan. Joining me, as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, how's life in the falls? Hot?
Life's pretty good. Life's pretty good, Mike. It's nice and toasty down here, like it is up there,
Like
and
it is everywhere, yes.
it's pretty darn hot. But a little storm went through early this morning, and I think we're expecting another one this evening. If it does hit here or not, will remain to be seen.
Well, the hockey world lost another legend this week in Tony Esposito. Tony O, as he's affectionately known, was a hero in Chicago. He retired before you got there, but you certainly played against him. Ever get any lights?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, the game before my 50th goal the first year in 1982, I scored four on him the game before that to break Frank Mahovlich's record. And
Remember that?
that was right at the end of his career, and it was kind of he didn't see long shots very well until the last second. So, but in tight, he was still pretty tough to beat.
Yeah.
But if you took a long shot from outside the blue line, he wouldn't pick it up until it was about 3 feet away. So it was unfortunate to see him, that happen to him because he was such a great player. And then when I went to Chicago, I got to meet him quite a few times. Him and his wife, they were always around and in the wives' room after and that sort of thing. And wonderful people, just great people. Tony was full of life, loved to laugh. He was a great guy.
Well, I was going to say the first time I ever went to Chicago Stadium to see my pal Billy Gunner play, we had on the show a couple weeks ago. I was at the rink very early, and this is in the mid 80s. The place was three-quarters full before the warm up and during the warm up. I looked up to the gallery gods, and about halfway through the warm up, the railing surrounding the standing room was lined with beer cups, and this before the pregame flood was over. So, I mean, talk about loud. Remember, there was no beer being served in Maple Leaf Gardens at this time, so this was just something unheard of. So during the game, there was a moment where they were playing the Rangers, and the puck ended up behind the Chicago net. Tony's in net. The puck gets popped out in front. The guy one time said, I think it was Ron Duguay actually, and the puck went over the net, and Tony does the splits, grabs the post with one arm. The other arm goes up like he's making that, the swooping save, but it goes over the net, hits the back, and Tony's fumbling all over the place, hits the ice. The puck comes back out front. It bounces right between a couple skates, and Tony pounces on it. Well, the crowd by this time is on their feet. And the guy beside me, who had two beers in his hand the whole game, he's up screaming, and it's Tony, Tony, Tony. And the place goes bananas. And so the guy sits down, and it's just like he's out of breath. And he would catch eyes, and he's looking at me like with that look that's, do you think that was awesome? I said, well, boy, this place is loud, but I don't really think he touched that puck. And he goes, oh, God, no, he missed it by a mile, but we just love cheering.
It was quite a building down there in Chicago. I can tell you that it was some pretty crazy nights there. The fans were crazy and loud, and it was a great place to play. It really was.
Well, I know Billy, just as a shout out for guards, he told me that, I know that Tony, he sat beside him in the dressing room, and he gifted him his gloves one year. And that's guards' most prized
Oh boy.
possession. You got any stories of, before we let it go, on Tony that you can recall?
And the other one I remember is that I don't recall when it was or what year it was or anything, but we were playing one night and Tony, of course, was one of the first goalies that was a butterfly goalie,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, though, he had a big 5 hole that he left open a lot. So anyway, someone comes down, takes a slap shot. Tony goes down to the butterfly. The puck it's going through his legs, and mysteriously it comes flying back out the center ice. And then all of a sudden, the whistles went. Referees are standing there going, "What just happened?" They went, they checked, and of course he had fish net
Yeah.
sewn into his pants to cover up the 5 hole. And unfortunately, when he went down, it was so tight that it ricocheted the puck straight out. And so he was very innovative as well.
That's right. We've always heard those little stories coming out about him. Well, he certainly will be dearly missed. They just don't make him like that anymore. And certainly our
No.
condolences go out to the Esposito family. Another thing we should acknowledge is the wonderful showing at the Olympics with some tremendous performances by Canadians. We're going off topic a bit here, but I think it's worthwhile. And anything during the game
Yeah.
stand out for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that stood out for me was no fans, and I felt bad for the athletes. I mean, we're looking at the best athletes in the world here,
Yep.
Mike. I mean, and the best athletes from
Yep.
Canada going over there to represent our country, and no one's there to watch and cheer them on and that sort of thing. I felt bad for the athletes because even though it probably wasn't any different to them, perhaps because they're there for a purpose, and that's to win a medal. But for me, not seeing that and them being able to go through that and hear it and everything, I don't know. I just felt bad about that.
Well, I mean, that part of it, yes, I mean, I agree with you on that. But I mean, there was a number of other incidents or occurrences. I love seeing the kids maybe not make the podium, but set new personal bests or Canadian records, just leaving it all out there in the competition, despite the fact there was no fans. The look of pride in their faces. I mean, I just love that. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just crazy that you think about it this way. Like you're looking at an athlete like that, and like I say, they're the best athletes in the world. They train like crazy. So they get ready 4 years for the Olympics, and say they go in at 18 years old or something like that. Like really, they're probably only going to get to 2 or 3 Olympics if they work hard enough. And so give them a lot of credit, boy. I'd say that's a pretty amazing thing that you can keep that focus and train for 4 years, 3 different times, and go to the Olympics. And our Olympians did an excellent job this year.
I thought they were. I mean, there were numerous feats led by the likes of Penny DeGrasse, who were just incredible. The women's soccer, of
Yeah,
course, was a highlight, obviously.
that was one of the best, I
But
thought.
and especially sticking to ho. You know, we like these guys south of the
Yeah,
border, but there's no greater feat than beating that and putting a big frown on their faces, particularly the one with the purple hair or the hell she has in her head. But
yeah.
um, the one guy I'd like to give a shout out to is Damian Warner winning the decathlon.
Hmm.
The world's greatest athlete. Think about this, Squid. 10 events over 2 days in grueling heat. In three of his events, he'd have medaled individually. I mean, that's simply awesome. And I don't think enough is being made of this. He'd be a national hero in other countries.
Yeah,
Bruce Jenner wins in 76 in Montreal. He dined out in that and made a career of it for a lifetime.
yeah.
So,
He certainly did.
yeah, he did in more ways than
It's
one, obviously. But
Yeah, well, and but anyway, yeah, you're right, Mike, and to go through something like that and come out with a gold medal. I mean, this guy should be on cereal boxes, you name it,
agreed.
whatever, across the country. But it likely won't happen because we're not like the U.S. and that just doesn't happen as much in Canada.
Well, it sure gets everybody fired up, though, coming out of that with the NHL to send players to Beijing, which is the next round. With the players' escrow, though, the debt is at $1 billion, and the cap is projected to increase only $1 million a year for the next 4, maybe 5 years. Can you really afford
Mm.
to shut down for 2 weeks? I mean, someone's going to be after delivering a lot of pizzas to make up for that shortfall.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, I guess, is what is the IOC going to pay for, and I think that's probably the biggest sticking point is paying for travel and everything, and insurance in case the players get hurt, that sort of thing. I mean, that stuff's not cheap. I can tell you that right now. And if the IOC probably doesn't step up and do that, I can't see the NHL shutting down for 2 weeks and spending that kind of money to protect the players that are going over to represent their countries. So hopefully it happens, but unless the IOC comes through, I don't see the NHL doing it. Not with the debt they're under right now.
Would you like to see the players go?
You know what? Yes and no. I mean, it's obviously a better Olympics and a better tournament when they do go
Yeah.
from all the countries. But at the same time, you know what? The Olympics. Uh, I don't know. Shutting down the league for 2 weeks or more in the middle of the season to me is really not the biggest thing. I'm not a big fan of that anyway. To go to the Olympics. I mean, I know we've won the gold, and it was fabulous. But the same time, and then again, you look at the possibility of the top players in the league getting hurt over
Hmm.
there. I don't know. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the NHL players going over there, and I say that only because I don't like what might happen over there or anywhere where they go, or um, and again, shutting the league down for that long is pretty tough on everybody.
Well, I mean, there's one side of me that wants to agree with you on that, but then Deb and I went to the Salt Lake City in 02, and I can tell you, I've never felt a feeling of pride, elation, emotion come
Mhm.
over me, and that was before the warm up in the semifinal game against Belarus. Never mind the gold medal game. I remember texting friends getting chills watching those beautiful Canadian sweaters circle the rink. It just seems so surreal. And when they won, it was just a wow moment. And as Deb said, she'll never forget watching the Canadian flag lifted to the rafters with the anthem playing and every male Canadian in the rink crying with joy. And that included me, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but no, I mean it is amazing. It really is, Mike. And I mean, watching the Canada Cups and the World Cups and
Yeah.
whatever the heck over the years, and watching Canada win is amazing. The Olympics, like you said, in Vancouver and then Oklahoma, or no,
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City rather. Yeah, I mean it's amazing, but maybe if it's over here, you go. If
Yeah.
but I mean, and the big thing is going into China. I mean, of all right now of all places for them to be going
Yeah. It's going to be,
for
it ain't going to be an easy one.
oh
But all I
no,
can say is that all the players we've had on the podcast say playing at the Olympics was probably their greatest experience
yeah,
outside of winning a Stanley Cup. And we've had numerous guys tell us that. Well, speaking of which, Squid,
yeah.
let's shift colors to that other team we cheer for. We're in blue and white. And of course,
Hmm.
we are talking about the competition they're facing in the division in the up and coming season. We spoke to Tampa last week. So let's touch on Florida, the other Florida team, Panthers. What's your thoughts on them?
They're a pretty good hockey club. Um, I don't know what they're going to do as far as goaltending because that Drieger kid came up and played really, really well for them last year.
Yeah.
Maybe help them, secure first place and get to the second or no, was it? Yeah, second round of the playoffs, only to lose to Tampa.
Yeah.
They're going to be a good team. They're going to have to shore up their goaltending a little bit or do something. But with the additions of Reinhardt, uh, I mean, they were, in my mind, they were the best team in the regular season last year, I thought, in that
Yeah.
division, ahead of Tampa, ahead of everybody. And so I expect that they'll be a pretty darn good team again this year.
Well, they've got holes like everybody else does, but the fact is they're not perfect, but they're going to be a handful and they're going to be
No,
in the thick of it right to the season's end. And, they're the kind of kids like Carter Verhagen, ex Maple Leaf. If he can repeat last year, you've got, Alexander Barkov, who plays almost obscurity in the South. He'd be a superstar in any Canadian market. Herbodeau, all
it's
these.
funny. I was going to mention Barkov because
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you right now. I think he's probably one of the best two-way centermen in the entire National Hockey League.
Yeah.
Plays at both ends of the rink, big body, takes a puck to the nets, not worried about anything happening, and he's one heck of a player.
Well, I mean, we're going to wait and see. And so there's two we've talked about. They're going to be right in the thick of it. So 2 for 2 so far. That's not a good start unless you're playing baseball.
No,
But
but
any further thoughts on who joins Matthews and Marner and Tavares and Nylander? Now we've got three names that we're throwing out there ourselves right now. Richie, who as we mentioned last week at $2.5 million, isn't playing third or fourth line minutes to start. Michael Bunting, who we keep hearing good things about. And the wild card is Andre Cass. I'm probably saying his not wrong name, Andre, but he was recovering concussion issues, but still had 10 teams kicking the tires on him as a real player. So where do they fit in?
well, I think probably, and this is I'm just making a guess here,
Yeah,
Mike,
of course.
but I'm thinking that Bunting will probably get a good look playing in camp, playing with Matthews and Marner. They're everything we've heard so far is that he's a same type of player as Hyman. I say they give him an opportunity to play with those guys. If he can play with them, great. Uh, but he is a young kid, so it's going to take a little bit of time, I think, for that thing to work. And yeah, I'd put Richie with Tavares, and well, unfortunately with Nylander too, I guess. But
No, we
well,
have to be
someone's
nice.
got to look after Johnny, right? I mean, because he's not going to, so they got to put someone there, a big body,
That's right.
that can, help Johnny down low, getting loose pucks, and look after him a little bit.
He doesn't have physical presence. His big body goes to the net. He can
Yeah,
score. You're not going to get the physical presence from Nylander. We know that. But so Richie probably gets a shot there. And that leaves Case to play third unit with maybe David Kemp, Kerfoot, Mikheyev on the other side. Engvall's hanging around. So there are some options. But it looks like,
yeah.
let's put it this way, these three guys are going to have a chance for a good time in their career to actually play with elite players. So their motivation heading into camp on the positive side from the Leaf standpoint is going to be very high, to say the least.
I would think so. I mean, if
Better
you're
be.
one of those three guys, you're looking at the lineup and you're going, hey, there's openings for me right there. All I got to do is go out and do my job, and one of those spots is mine. And I'm going to get a chance to play with great players and maybe have a great year, and then cash in on it after that. So I'm sure they're sitting at home,
Yep.
working out and getting ready and thinking exactly that. There's a chance for me there with some real good hockey players, and I better be ready to take advantage of it.
Well, are going to be watched with certain interest, obviously, coming up in the next few weeks. And Squid, it's that time again in honor of camp a few weeks away. And what could be at stake for some of these players? Let's leave them with this thought of the week from ex-President Thomas Jefferson. We're going real deep here.
Okay.
I'm a great believer in luck, and I find the harder I work, the more I have of it.
And that is so true.
Absolutely. And they're going to be looking for a lot of that this year, and hopefully the hard work comes along with it. Well, folks, that's our show for today. Join us next week, same time, same place. Don't forget to check out our weekly podcast that drops Fridays at 6. This week's guest, Jason Fitzsimmons, who backstopped Squid's 1997 Kelly Cup Championship team in South Carolina. Today's a pro scout with the Washington Capitals, and he shares life as a pro scout. Very interesting synopsis he gave on how things work from the scouting perspective. So tune in and listen to that. You won't want to miss it. And until next week, everyone have a great week. See you guys soon.
Enjoy.